got Gord, You're Hurtin' Hippie with episode 131. 131 episodes of Hippie News Network. It hasn't always been called that. It was Weedy Weekend. It's now Hippie News. I don't know if I'm going to need these, but they're bothering me. And yeah, I got a third eye. So bear with me. Anyways, peace and cheers, love and harmony. I hope this finds you well. I have quite a few stories to share with you, but I like to start this off with what you guys like. You guys like me to get a little high when I talk to you guys. You guys like me to share my medicine and what I have with you guys. So, pitter patter, let's get at her. Today's med that's being highlighted is Blue Kush. Blue Kush is a beautiful, beautiful flower, and I'm going to show you it in all its detail after I have a little bit of it. It's a great midday hybrid. Cheers, all. I believe its parents are Blueberry and OG Kush. I'm not going to look it up. That's not what this is about. It's not a review. It's just a, hey, let's look at this thing. You know, it's, that's Blue Kush. That's Blue Kush right there at 20 times zoom. It's exactly what's in the pipe, just not the same piece. And it is a beautiful, beautiful trichomy, colorful flower. It has very light and dark greens, not many purples. And you have to bear with me. I do have trouble because of my teeth. You all know my teeth issues. And my upper plate just seems to want to come down all the time. I'm going to take this out and show it to you and then put it back under. There it is. Dark and light greens, beautiful amber and lots of colored hairs, and I've already picked at this a little bit. Put it back under there and have a look, and let's go 200 times because that's where it looks best. And let's get a really good shot of it like that and go full screen. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? Look at those trichomes all through it. Some of the heads are broken off. It's been used. It's a little older. I've had this for a couple of weeks, but absolutely beautiful and full of oil just waiting to be squished out of there or melted in the pipe. So there we are. We've titillated the senses. We've had a little bit to prime us up. And so now, let's get at the news. Let's get at the news. First story is the government will... this is my favorite story of the week, maybe of the year. And let me go back a few... You're reading this. How dare you? Let me go back a few months, quite a few months, when the Liberal government of Ontario, it was Liberal then, it has changed hands to Conservative, but the province of Ontario, like Quebec, very liberal-minded, very large government, when the provinces had to develop their frameworks for selling cannabis, the Western provinces all said, we're going through dispensaries and private retail outfits, licensed producers, and we'll talk about that later. It's not perfect, but it's supporting private enterprise. Ontario, Quebec, and some of the Maritimes came up with the liquor control boards of their provinces, which we don't even have in Alberta, not the same anyway, would control the sales. Ontario said they'd have 40 stores. 40. They'd have to be huge. Anyways, the Ontario government switched hands and went Conservative just a little while ago, and the Conservative government has come in and stepped in and said, although they will control the distribution and manage the online sales, They are going to let private enterprise step in and be the stores. They're going to have to redevelop this framework. There isn't too much more to the story, but it shows that yay for the right. The right would have never legalized. Conservatives, for some reason, seem to stay away from legalization. But once something is legal, once something has been opened up to industry, the right is very strong on the fact that private enterprise will do a better job in the business of doing business. Government should not be in the business of doing business. They should be in the business of governing only. So smaller government, less control, more private enterprise. This is a positive. And along those news, we're going to the very next story, which is this graph shows you, it's got a couple of lines there. If I can put it there, now you can see it's switching back and forth. These are the persons charged over the past many years on cannabis. Both possession and trafficking have been reduced immensely over these years leading to legalization. It should have stopped. It really should have stopped, except for those totally way off base. But that's a longer story. This is a great story on how the decline in charges is twofold. According to Mike Sir, the Deputy Chief of Abbotsford Police Department, police forces have been focused on the opioid crisis and the public health issues surrounding it. That is one of the reasons. The second reason is why charge people with something that very likely in a couple of months, if they can get a lawyer, they're going to get off anyway. These charges are not going to stick. So legalization coming close. Most of my stories are going to be covering this lead up to it and how it is happening. Many, many online stores have already opened up in advance because the law's already there supporting them. Next story. This is a sad one, folks. Look at that. Look down there. Isn't that awful? That is tons of cannabis, and I don't know how many kilograms of concentrates that was going from BC into Ontario to support the gray area there. Was stopped in West Hawk Lake, Manitoba by the RCMP. Checked the paperwork, something didn't look right, opened the door, and with the foodstuffs was a bunch of this stuffs. They didn't even estimate its worth. They say they try not to do that because the price changes so often. It's pretty easy to estimate the worth if I knew the poundage. But it doesn't matter. They aren't releasing those details. It's just kind of sad to see. What do they expect? Where do they think all this stuff from Ontario that's being sold is coming from? It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But, folks, such is life. This stuff is going to move, and it's going to move illegally. And I'm about to tell you why. Segue to the next story. Blue Kush is beautiful, my friends. Blue Kush is beautiful. Next story. Oh, sorry, that's not the next story. It is, to some degree. There could be a cannabis shortage coming up. I've said that'll happen. That will happen because you got to get to the medical people first. Retail sales is going to be difficult to meet all of this. Cannabis industry insiders are warning that despite the claim to the contrary, Health Canada is underprepared when it comes to supply and demand for cannabis after it's legal on October 17th. How much cannabis will Canadians want post-legalization? 3 different studies offer some theories. A 2016 study by Health Canada and Deloitte picked the brains of 5,000 statistically average Canadians, I think I was part of this one, and conclude Canadians will buy a minimum of 600,000 kilograms annually. In its September 2017 report, Mackey Research Capital one-upped Deloitte, forecasting consumers will use around 800,000 kilograms, and a 2017 report from the Office of the Parliamentary Budget Officer projects that we'll need 655,000 kilograms for the recreational market alone. Whatever the true number turns out to be, it's a lot of cannabis to produce, and Canada is the new global king of producing pot. Even now, months before recreational use market opens its floodgates, licensed producers have been growing and selling medical cannabis strains since 2001. Now in dried flower and oil forms, not just to Canadians with a doctor's prescription, but to countries all around the world with their own medical programs, totaling about 1.2 billion in sales last year. That's amazing. Canada is already leading the world in this. Prior to it being fully legal, it was only medically legal, and we're already supplying around the world. It's amazing how this industry is growing. I am excited to see it come in, and for a minute, I'm just going to go back to full screen, and you're having a little opinion moment with the hippie. My hippie brain says that this is not legalization. I agree with many of my colleagues that say this is just simply a re-regulation of the marketplace, allowing for and decriminalization, but not a legalization, because if this plant were legal like any other plant, there wouldn't be this many regulations. But let me say this. First of all, it's not a plant like any other. It's not a lavender plant that you can get some medical use out of that you could grow in your backyard if you knew how to grow lavender. It's not that. It is a medical plant that, when concentrated enough, there can be some rather psychoactive effects to it. When used properly, it's totally safe, and when used improperly, it's still fairly safe. So I expect regulations. I expect it to not be 100% free, although I think it should be. The hippie of me says, free the plant, free the plant. But the conservative, the businessman in me, the logical thinker of me says, not only will we start with regulations, we'll start with it being over-regulated. And then as time passes, as many of these laws and regulations are challenged in the courtrooms, many will adjust, some will go away, some will be fine-tuned. We will get better at this. But if not for the first step, the journey doesn't happen. We are taking that first step. Now it's baby steps through a forest of regulation to find what works, what satisfies those that are really scared, while still trying to satisfy those of us who have no fear of this, that really want it to be as free as possible. Somewhere we will find something that works for society moving forward, as they have found with alcohol. It didn't happen overnight. Now we get to move on to my talks, and this is a new piece. Thanks for listening to my op-ed. This is a new piece about what job recruiters say these 3 jobs in the cannabis industry command the highest salary. I'm not going deep into this. I've already gone rather deep on this news show, and this one is really in depth. It's U.S. driven. It's talking about how Eastern U.S., as they open up medical programs and start to even legalize recreationally, They are wanting very experienced business people, and they can't find them out there, so they're going to the West to get people who have been working in the industry legally for more than 5 years, for 10 years, for whatever years, because California has had dispensaries for 20 years, 25 years. So many jobs that, even if you're in California right now and you're working for a dispensary, you can command 20, 30, 40% more money moving east. Do you want to move east, though? I don't know the U.S. that well, but it's funny how these businesses, it's funny how you have a already well-established group of people in all these eastern states that have been working with and know marijuana for years and years and years. They just aren't willing to recognize them. And so the more I read through this, the more I thought, this is a businessman's perspective of the business side of the issue. And yes, it does open up opportunity for a lot of you working legally in the industry. Still in the US and still in Canada, there is a lot of gray area around that industry. And truly, if the people in the East Coast want to make the more money, they should not be looking for already well-established dispensary managers and stuff like that, and grow managers. They should look locally and hire the people that have been hurt by this 80-year prohibition. There are a lot of people with criminal charges in their background that without this prohibition would not have criminal charges. If that's the only charge in their background, hire them. They're going to be your best employee, and they're going to grow your business for you properly. That's my reach out to any owner watching this. Don't look for those super experienced California people and spend $120,000 to $250,000 a year on them when you have local people that are struggling because of prohibition who could do really well for you at half that price. That I'm kind of getting into the opinions here, aren't I? This one, the last two, we're winding it down, folks. Just gonna have a little Pura Vida. It's plugged in because the battery's charging. Whoa. I was a little stronger than usual, a little hotter than usual. But that's a CBD 2-to-1. PureVita.com is a wonderful place to check out. Anyways, I get into this. You see it says right below here, early use of cannabis. This is really a story of the history of CBD. And like I do at the end of my hippie news, I like to give you some educational pieces to take away, to read, to enjoy, to share. This is a really good one in that I'm not going to read it all to you, but I do want to read the beginning of this because it's kind of an interesting story that some of you may not know. So I'm reading. The first ever recorded use of cannabis as medicine, and I question this, but was in 2737 BCE. I think that's a new version for saying before Christ, by the Chinese Emperor Shen Neng. It was also prescribed by him to his people for treatment of gout, malaria, rheumatism, and poor memory. This launched the use of the plant for medicinal treatment, which began gaining popularity through Asia and spread into other places in the Middle East. By late 18th century, England and America had caught on to using cannabis for treatment of a variety of things. Early American medical journals suggested the use of hemp seeds and roots for relieving inflamed skin, as well as treating venereal disease and incontinence. Further down the line, it was also used to ease pain in those suffering from rheumatism and relieving nausea that was commonly experienced with a lot of illnesses such as cholera. Over the following decades, cannabis continued to be used in a variety of ways for its benefits. Though these use and benefits varied periodically, some, like treating pain, seemed to withstand the test of time. I'm not going to go on deeper. It goes on to talk, though, and it's a really enjoyable read about the history of it and the formation of CBD, and it talks about tinctures, how tinctures even survived prohibition for a while, up until 1945. Tinctures were still around. Tinctures, my friend, that is a bit of a segue into my own foray into making tinctures. I made a wonderful, wonderful tincture here that I'm not going to take any, because then I can't talk. But absolutely beautiful tincture that I've had a few people test out, and it's super strong and really good for sleep. It's certainly coming back in popularity. So, read, enjoy, share, and let's move on to our last story, which is a how-to 6 smoke-free ways to consume cannabis. I wanted to share these with you as a final. There is vaporizing, such as this. Beautiful way to take medicine without, and I'm not going to read this, I encourage you to read it. Another way is edibles. I really enjoy edibles. I enjoy them later in the day. I enjoy the body high I get from it, and the relief from pain is much more efficient than when I toke or I vape. So edibles, a wonderful, wonderful method. It doesn't work for everybody, and always, if you're new to it, start low. Start low. 10 or 15 milligrams is all you need to start with, and then see how your body reacts. Even if you think you have really good tolerance levels, if it's your first edible or your first edible in a while, start small. Ingestible oils, capsules. This is the way I take my CBD. It is the way. I sometimes use a distillate or crystalline to get some CBD, especially short term, or a pen to get some CBD short term when I'm experiencing heavy anxiety, or if I'm hurt myself and I need some swelling reduction, I'll quickly but then I'll take a pill. My son had terrible back pain after his first day back at work, my older son. And so when he came home and he was, I said, go son, take one of my CBD pills. It's 10 milligrams of CBD, and it's really going to help. Half an hour later, he was moving around much better, and his back did not end up going bad, which was good because he had more work to do. For his tinctures, and I just talked about them. There are different tinctures. I have here from MMJ, Cannalicious brand, an alcohol tincture. I've had it forever because I hate alcohol. These are good tinctures. They're wonderful for you, and you're not getting drunk because, again, you're only taking a dropper worth. And that will give you, with this one, about 10 milligrams, where I'm very sure mine, this is coconut oil, fractionated coconut oil. And I'm pretty sure, although I haven't had it tested, from what I get out of taking this, sorry, hair in my eyes, what I get from it, I'm pretty sure I'm getting 25 milligrams to a dose. And it's a wonderful way to take your medicine because it goes under the tongue. Some people swallow too quick. It should sit there 60 to 90 seconds. The longer, the better. It goes into your bloodstream immediately and is absorbed immediately. You usually feel effects within 2 minutes, and they last for upwards of up to 2 hours. So it's a pretty good way to take your medicine. 5 is topicals. Definitely a good way, again from MMJ, the skin Definitely a wonderful method of looking after skin problems, of surface pain. Most fibromyalgics get a tingling of the muscles, even almost a tremor in their hands or legs or feet. This is beautiful for that. Great for deep arthritic pain. Topicals, I couldn't live without my topicals. I use them absolutely every day of my life. And dabbing. Dabbing is maybe one of my favorite methods. Here I'm going to show you, I wonder who it's from. Sugar wax. This is jet fuel sugar wax. I'm going to take a small one because I don't need to get super medicated during the daytime. And cheers with you. I hope you enjoyed my show. Dabbing is one of the methods of flash vaporization, which cannabis concentrates are dropped on a heated water pipe attachment and inhaled for intensely potent effects. Let's get intense. Cheers. What a beautiful, beautiful flavor. Definitely different from smoking in the pipe. Definitely easier on the lungs once you get used to it. And they help grow the lungs. They really, really do. You are not inhaling carcinogens, so you are not doing anything that's going to hurt your lungs except the heat. Don't go high heat. As you see with this is my e-nail. And yes, I've got the Hurt and Hippie on it. Kind of dirty right now. But this is my e-nail. And I keep it around 700 to 750 degrees. Never would I go up to 1,000 degrees. It's hard on your lungs. And you don't need to hurt yourself to medicate. And my friends, we have come to the end of this news. I hope you like my new method of delivering it to you. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you share these things with everybody, because the more we can teach, the less stigma we deal with on a daily basis. It is a wonderful snowball that is exponential. It is growing and growing, and the stigma is shrinking into a little tiny dandelion, and pretty soon we'll blow it away. Peace and cheers, friends. Love and harmony. Look for somebody without a smile today. Please give them that beautiful one of yours. Peace.